Thank you very much. The next speaker is the distinguished representative of Azerbaijan. Mr. Deputy Chairman, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the High Commissioner on behalf of the delegation of the Republic of Azerbaijan for his thorough report clearly reflecting the global challenges and also current financial crisis that UNHCR and the entire international community is facing in order to respond to urgent humanitarian needs and large-scale displacement as a result of wars, conflicts, human rights violations, and persecution. I'm sure that the results of this session will be helpful for joint efforts to improve the situation of refugees and internally displaced persons. Unfortunately, despite our efforts, the number of refugees and internally displaced persons in the world is increasing, and at present, the figure has exceeded 123 million, according to the latest information. We must add regretfully that the number of military conflicts, which are the main cause of displacement, is also increasing. Therefore, in order to reduce the number of internally displaced persons, it's required to get significant progress in eliminating its main reasons, the set conflicts and violence. Also, disregard for the fundamental provisions of international humanitarian law. In the meantime, it's important to mobilize resources in order to meet urgent humanitarian needs, to support host countries, to protect people from risks, and to help to the refugees and other displaced persons in finding of sustainable solutions. The liberation of our lands from occupation created conditions for return of hundreds of thousands of internally displaced persons to their former residential places. During the period of occupation, Azerbaijan cities and villages, all infrastructure facilities, national and cultural heritage were completely destroyed, natural resources were looted, significant damage was caused to the economy. At present, Azerbaijan takes all necessary measures in order to provide the safe and worthy life of the population who will return to these territories. The first state program on the Great Return adopted by the government is being implemented for the 4th year. It should also be noted that Azerbaijan implemented the necessary measures to improve the social protection and living conditions of persons of this category during the period of aggravation of the conflict. Provision of the food, medical care, and social and household needs created great difficulties. Our government has mobilized its opportunities to the maximum extent and also has received assistance from international organizations, including UNHCR. The assistance of international organizations was important, especially in the 1990s, in regard of survival of refugees and internally displaced persons. But Azerbaijan government undertook the main burden and today continues this work decently. During the period of preparation for the Great Return, the absolute majority of internally displaced persons who participated in social surveys conducted by the State Committee for Refugees and IDPs declared their desire to return to their former permanent living places. Multiple actions have been defined for return of the internally displaced persons in the first state program on the Great Return. These measures include the construction of new residential places, the restoration of cities and villages, infrastructure, as well as adaptation of the population to new living conditions and their reintegration to economic activities in order to increase the employment opportunities. According to the program, the process of returning of the internally displaced persons to their lands has started, and already more than 50,000 internally displaced persons have been settled in the territories liberated from occupation. But one of the main reasons impeding the return is the problem of landmines. Since the end of the Second Karabakh War on November 2020, till today, about 400 people became victims of landmines. This does not allow to carry out a large-scale reconstruction process. At present, the provision of all internally displaced persons with decent housing conditions and employment is the priority, and therefore the main attention is paid to the implementation of housing projects. Since year 2022, when the Great Return started, up to date, resettlement of internally displaced persons in 6 liberated cities and 15 villages of 9 regions have been implemented. The returning population is provided with the houses and apartments that meet modern requirements. The houses and apartments that are given to internally displaced persons are built and restored at the expense of the state funds. In accordance with current legislation, the returning internally displaced persons will use social protection measures determined by the state for them for the period of 3 years, also receiving a one-time monthly allowances. The preparation of the second state program on the Great Return covering 2027-2030 years has already started according to the decree of the President of Azerbaijan. The program will indicate the effective measures for the settlement of the liberated territories. It can be said with certainty that Azerbaijan is creating a comprehensive, new and modern model of return of internally displaced persons to their former residential places, and this model can be used in other countries too. On August 8, 2025, the Joint Declaration on the Establishment of Peace and Interstate Relations between 2 states by the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia was signed within the framework of the summit of the leaders of Azerbaijan, the United States of America and Armenia. The acceptance of the declaration is confirmation of the long-standing peace agenda of Azerbaijan. The results arising from Azerbaijan-Armenia normalization process have historical importance. We hope that after this, refugees and forced displacement problem will disappear forever in the region, and people in the region will live in peace and prosperity. Despite the long-standing and large-scale problem of internal displacement, Azerbaijan also takes significant steps in the direction of accepting asylum seekers from third countries, strengthening the social protection of persons who have received refugee status and their integration into society, improvement of the asylum system, prevention of legal migration as a transit country between Asia and Europe, and contributes to international efforts in this area. We believe that it's possible to achieve a just solution to problems as a result of combined international efforts only by observing accepted international obligations, providing of mutual respect, and taking responsible steps towards future generations, and Azerbaijan intends to play its role in this global process. Thank you very much.